What I was thinking about, and I think, I mean, for me, was a really important distinction was the answering the question, what love is.
Mhm.
And essentially, I came to distinguish between what I now feel is true love and what I used to think love was, which basically was just an addiction to what felt so good in the past. And, you know, we can try to, define love or quantify it or categorize it. But to me, it's not a thing. It's not a mindset. That there's a song that says, love is a verb. It's an action word. But, and obviously this is this romantic Hallmark holiday, but to me, love is in its true essence more than even romantic love for another person. I've been in love, and I'm not going to use air quotes, but they're sort of implied, in the past. And, I recognize the degree to which that has been a function of feeling good. Love was really just an attachment to feeling good. And as a result, it was unstable and volatile. And I think about, for example, the difference between love for a romantic partner versus love for a friend. And I remember hearing it said once that platonic love is the strongest kind of love there is, like love that you have for a dear friend, because you don't ever have to worry about getting kicked out of bed. I mean, just as an example, like, for me, I guess the important lesson is understanding that love, there's what we call love, which again is this attachment to feeling good, and like you can think of examples of past relationships where you felt like you were in love, and you might feel these loving feelings in one moment, and then the next moment, I'm sure you could speak to it as much as anybody. Things turn completely upside down. And it's, to me, sort of like happiness. We say we want love, we say we want happiness, but those things, so far as they're, function of attachments to external things, there's always an opposite. It's fine, in my opinion, to have an ebb and flow. One of the key things that I've gained about, understanding about happiness is that you don't have to be happy all the time. And replace the word love or in love for happiness if you want. But again, when it's a matter of having an attachment to something, that comes and goes. What I've discovered over many years, and Lord knows I'm still, experiencing it in new ways. It's unfolding for me in new ways all the time. There are enough opportunities for me to be reminded when I'm not being loving. Stephanie's great at keeping me honest, and or at least holding up a mirror to when I'm being fucked up. But it's for me, the important lesson is that love is not it has nothing to do with attachment. And maybe this is a good point to sort of interject a little bit about our story and how we came to be, because and I'll just sort of share a little bit. So coincidentally, perhaps, it turned out that Steph and I had ended the last serious relationships we had prior to meeting one another around the same time. And there was a period of about 3 years where we were dating sort of casually, just having fun. And then we met one another, and it was, although I think she was in denial for a little while, it was chemistry. When two atoms that have the potential for bonding meet, they bond. There's no hesitation. There's no question. It was chemistry, and I have as clear sense as anything that it was meant to be. But I had in my mind sort of a sense that I had learned lessons over the years, that I was going to have to put these lessons into practice. And you can use the expression, if you love someone, set them free. If they come back, they're yours. If not, it was never meant to be, or something along those lines. And just briefly, when we met, it wasn't long before I had a real strong sense that that this was the woman that I wanted to commit myself to. Mm-hmm. But she was still dating other people at the time. I had actually, it is what it was. I told her, I said, what, I'm really not interested in seeing anybody else. I shut down my dating profiles and cut off, the relationships, though they were pretty casual. But the point of this is that even though I was feeling pretty intense feelings, and a certain fear would occasionally crop up, and it wasn't even just like, oh, this feels so good, I hope it doesn't end. It was more like, holy crap, for the first time in my life, I think this might be it. God help me. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen. And it took a lot of courage. And the lesson was that I needed to be willing to lose her. I needed to let her go. And it's, it's to sound cliche, but, it comes to mind. I think it was Yoda when he's having the discussion with Anakin Skywalker, in terms of, and there's a lesson there. He said, you must be willing to let go of everything you fear to lose. Mm-hmm. So there was that fear, but it was pretty tremendous, because it really solidified for me what love is. And so basically, coming back around to it, it wasn't about attachment. In fact, it was willingness to let go. And I also use the analogy of the flower, right? You come across a beautiful flower. If you covet it, you want it, your inclination might be to pick it and to bring it home and put it in a vase and water it and so forth, and sort of make it yours. But the moment that you pluck it from its natural environment where it's growing and flourishing, it is gonna wither and die. So the lesson was, love is not about possession. Love is about granting freedom. And it seems that was one of the reasons that I actually, helped you maybe to come around.
It was the reason why you won my heart, because in my other relationships, there was always control. There was definitely lack of freedom. And I was so afraid to let my guard down because of that. And I was afraid that being in love with someone meant losing out on my freedom, losing out on who I was, losing out on everything I had created for myself. So, I mean, he's right. He was driving an hour and a half without traffic, sometimes 3 hours with traffic, in traffic, to come and see me with a car breaking down, going to Westchester to Long Island. And, there was 3 separate occasions where I was like, he's too nice. I don't know if this is what I want. And you have to remember, I was never really, I'd had one real healthy relationship right before, and I had seen that there was a possibility of a real healthy love. But before that, I really hadn't. So I was like, you know what? Maybe there's something that he's something that he's not, and he's pretending to be something that he's not. I'm just going to break it off with him. And every single time I would look at those big blue eyes and I would say, not this time, because it felt like I was missing out on something wonderful and amazing. And I, to say, okay. And I think, I didn't tell you every single time, I don't think. But I was like, I remember being in the car and I was like, all right, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to break up with him. And then he'd look over and I was like, oh, okay, maybe later.
That might have been a little discouraging, but
yeah.
No, I picked up on it too, because you kept me at arm's length, and you did not change your,
I was very open and honest. I told him exactly where I was at.
Oh, and that's
And
fine.
David was too. But I think the good thing about all of that is that we became friends, because he wasn't trying to control me or fix me or make me do something that he wanted so that he could gain our relationship. He really just wanted me to be happy. And he at one point said to me, I want you to be happy and I see a future with you. But if that's not what you want, please tell me, but I will wait until you're ready. And that was,
well, yeah, in a manner of speaking. I mean, what I said was, because you were still dating some other guy, and I was basically like, look, there's no pressure or anything like that. I'm just letting you know that I'm not interested in seeing anybody else, and you're still seeing somebody. And again, inside there was that little bit of a sting where I'm like, because in the past I thought that it was about control, and you had to sort of posture and position, and there might have been a time in the past where I would have been a little bit more stubborn about it, and basically say, okay, well, you're not going to show me exactly what I want to show you, then forget it.
And I would have run. I wouldn't have stuck around at all.
And in the past I might have cut it off, but and I can almost remember, I think we were out on Main Street in Patchogue, and I realized that despite my greatest hopes and fears, it still might not work out. So I reflected on this principle of sort of staring into the void and having the courage to let go. And again, for years I somehow knew I was going to have to use this lesson. So I basically said, you know what, come what may, I'm just going to enjoy the time that we have together. Whatever happens, it doesn't even matter. And I didn't want any lingering fears or worries to take away from the time that we had together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the approach that I took. And as it happens, that was the key. And there's a larger context for me, which is you have to be willing to let go. And I use the analogy of the river all the time. If you want to capture the water, if you grab at it and try to possess it, it just slips through your fingers. If you open your hands up to it, you're open to the flow. And just like time, the moments come and go. But as long as you are open, you can be in the flow, right? Yeah. So, and that is actually the one of the biggest things that supports our love when it's at its best, because when you're open to the flow, you're not holding on to any one moment. You're not anticipating something in the future with worry. You're not holding on to something in the past with regret or anger. You're more present, and there's such a degree for me of peace of mind, not needing things to be a particular way. And that's one of the things, and comes up. And I was talking earlier about the whole Valentine's Day holiday and the stress over needing things to be just right and blah 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 and all that. Love. True love, at its essence, in my opinion, doesn't need anything, and that was a really important thing for me to grasp. And again, I think it was one of the keys to actually achieving what now is magical. This isn't even like, I mean, I don't want to say I didn't try, but like this, the best that life has to offer and the best that love has to offer comes naturally when you're aligned with the flow. And I think that's probably the core of what I would offer, and to keep it in context, life can be really difficult and is really difficult for a lot of people when they stay stuck in the past, where they are attached to outcomes. When you base your happiness on things turning out a certain way, you're invariably setting yourself up for disappointment and failure and sadness.
And that's what I wanted to jump in on that, because I was talking to someone today and they were saying that they, they give all this love to all these people and they don't get anything back. And they were very upset and angry about it. And, my comment was, well, maybe you need to, flip the switch, because realistically, love is not about expecting something in return. If I said to David, for everything that he did, I would have to do something back, or, it was a 50-50, it's a load of shit. Like, that's just never going to work. And it's a waste of time. And without it being even a romantic love, even your daily joy of being alive and doing for others, there's obviously, if it's not comfortable to you, then you need to stop. You can still love someone, but be away from them. That's something different. But to think of what you can give to others, what you can share with other people, because I really try, and there's times where I mess up, there's times where I'm not living that way, but I really try in every moment that I can to lead with my heart and to allow my heart to bring me in whatever direction, without hoping for someone doesn't have to be nice to me because I was nice to them. I don't need that.
That's just the thing. And that's one thing that I've noticed about you, is that you give love unconditionally. God, Lord knows, especially when it comes to me, and maybe, if I were of a different mind, I'd think that I didn't deserve it. Yeah, that concept of giving love without expectation of something in return, giving love for love's sake, and that's such a key thing. And a lot of people treat love and happiness as sort of a debt-based economy.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's love or happiness or even just attention, you can see it in conversations with some people.
Mm-hmm.
Like the tendency some people have to not listen, but just, waiting for their chance to speak.
Mm-hmm.
When you enter into a moment looking for what you're going to get out of it,
mm-hmm.
You're going to get trapped in a cycle of disappointment. And you might, have occasional victories where you play your cards right, and you get some satisfaction out of it. But realistically, if you go into anything, a relationship, and this goes equally for your relationship with yourself as well as it does with anybody else. If you enter into a moment with an expectation of what you're going to get out of it, you're going to get set up for failure. On the other hand, if you can access what it has been called joy, which doesn't have an opposite, but wells up from within you. I mean, that again is for me the emotion tied to the analogy being in the flow that I was talking about. You're not constricted. You're open. You're free. You're more flexible and adaptable.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, is that when you are really living that, it's so freeing, because you're not expecting anything in return. You're not going tit for tat. And I really, leading with my heart and seeing people from a soul level as opposed to looks, and really trying to focus on, just sending out what I get, giving out what I get back. And just when the more love you give out, it's great, because it's not like it's going to disappear. It's not like, oh, I gave this much love, I don't have any left to give, I'm sorry. But for me, I notice that the more love I give out, the more comes to me. It triples and quadruples and just keeps coming back
without even trying. And it comes in unexpected ways and places. So give up this Valentine's Day bullshit, people. I mean, has anyone, I know we got our same two girls on here.
And it's 9 o'clock, so we're actually saying if we're going to keep it integrity. Were there any questions that anybody had for us that we could maybe share?
Anybody meaning you two?
Well, this will be recorded for anyone who did miss it. So obviously people can watch if they'd like to. And if people comment after the recording, we will reply to any comments. But if there's any questions, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, has anyone had the experience of, for example, Valentine's Day, stressing over what they're going to get their loved one, and wondering if, the same amount of thought or money or time or whatever went into what they're going to receive. Again, to me, that that just it kills the essence of it. So yeah, I don't know if I mean, it may just be my opinion, but I think Valentine's Day is sort of a BS holiday. And
I think coming from a man's perspective, I think it's kind of different too, because I think men are kind of pressured to get that, dozen roses and the chocolates and the diamonds and all these things. They feel like they have to do that. And, women, if we don't get something, we're all upset. Why would they want to spend about this special day with me? And, it actually causes issues for some people. And again, if you're like, let's say you're a guy and you're trying to save up some money and, a dozen roses is kind of expensive and they're dead in a week and a half. I'd rather something that would be more lasting. If you're going to buy me something, it better not be roses that are going to die real quick.
Well, I've said it before, and I think it's relevant in a lot of different contexts. But I believe that our most valuable currency is our attention. We can pay attention. So it's not about, and again, I'm not begrudging people who find pleasure and joy in material things. They can make the ride more enjoyable. I think roses are beautiful and they smell sweet, and that's great. I'm not going to buy them often.
But what is actually really even better thing is that after this Facebook Live, which we're going to end in about 30 seconds, I did have a promise of something that's my favorite. It's not sex, if you're wondering. Which would be wonderful too, but
I feel like I'm getting set up here somehow.
What was the other thing we were going to do?
Yes. Well, in terms of paying attention and being present and enjoying the moment and giving freely without expectation of return, one of the best ways that I can express that is through music. So I'm going to grab my guitar and serenade my honey.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. He could do it all the time.
Yeah.
I love
and all that costs is like, fresh set of strings every once in a while. So anyway.
So thank you so much for tuning in. Let's see.
Meredith and Melissa. Say hi if you're still listening. Oh, wait, hold on. We have a comment. I'm sorry. Yeah, let's not let that go unacknowledged. Single moms, just make sure my kids are happy. Hey, look, you know what? Like I said, there's nothing wrong with making a day special, and especially for your kids.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think back to when I was a kid, and those special times were fun. And I'm not saying that it's entirely wrong to have something to look forward to. The rub can be when you place your happiness in that future moment. In fact, I think I made a post not too long ago where I said essentially, betting on future happiness is a good way to not have it now. So in other words, well, I mean, the point is if you base happiness on those special days, like that's why I don't make a big deal about my birthday so much, honestly, because when I was a kid, that was like, oh, the best day of the year, and it's all about me and whatever, and that's fine. But there was a point in time where I stopped wishing for things when I was blowing out my candles. And actually what I wished for was just for my best good and the good of all to be done. I didn't wish for any particular thing. I didn't want to control it. So the point is it's great to have celebrations and make special occasions. I'm not saying that you have to be in this Zen guru state where everything is just a constant and it's just a, sort of a state of gray.
But it's really the experience. I mean, what are your kids going to remember? What are my students and what are people that we run into? They're not going to remember the things that they got. They're going to remember how they felt around you. How did I feel? How did I feel when I was with them? Mom remembered to do something special. She made us our favorite meal, or those are the things you remember.
Yeah, but you know what? If you're not careful, they may look back and say, oh, well, this one day or these few days out of the year were made so much more special than any other. I mean, personally, when I think about Zachary, our 2-year-old, looking back on the experiences he had growing up with us as his parents, I would rather him have a sense that there was a general undercurrent of love and peace and joy in the household. And because again, seriously, miracles don't just happen on Valentine's Day or Christmas. Anyway, I think you get the gist.
Yeah. But anyway, so don't wait till tomorrow to take out the special silver. it's today. It's
What are you saving the
every day.
shivas for? Right?
Exactly. Today, you know, just don't keep putting things off for another day, because today's the day, and start really loving yourself and really loving the experience of life and making this the best one.
Yeah,
because who knows?
And loving others.
Yep.
And again, you know, we have another example of an absolute lack of love. I don't know if I'd call it hatred, but you know, in the news, we just before we went on heard about this school shooting, and we can see the consequence. Maybe that was the extreme end of the spectrum, but the consequence of not cultivating love on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. I don't know what was going through his head or the minds of anyone else who commits, you know, acts or thoughts of violence and hatred and fear and whatever on a daily basis. But I can pretty confidently say that if we get out of the mindset of attachment and actually work to cultivate giving love on a daily basis, mm-hmm. without expectation of what we're going to get in return, mm-hmm. just because we can. Mm-hmm. I mean, start with gratitude and forgiveness. We're given this life, mm-hmm. and that alone qualifies us to be worthy of it. And we're angels for one another. We've got to, you know, cultivate that mindset. And when you do, and you let go of attachment, holding on and needing things to be a certain way, or only being happy if somebody says a certain thing to you or buys you this or that, you know, then you're open to limitless possibilities and limitless joy and love.
So especially in the wake of all of this, you know, just remember to forgive yourself, love yourself, and share the love. So yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Hug your kids.
We will hopefully talk to you guys soon. I'm going to try to do some more Facebook Lives more often. But if there's any topics that you'd like to hear, please let us know in the comments, and feel free to share this with anybody that you think this would be helpful for.
Chat us up. And I'll take this moment to say that that I love you guys.
Yes, thank you.
You know, really grateful, especially to you, honey, for having created this community, because this is an opportunity to spread that love, and hopefully anyone who watches has got a little something out of it. So thanks.
All right, we love you.
Bye. Oh, that's sweet. Bye, Melissa.